There are hidden gems, sleepers, all throughout Auburn's roster.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. We're dapping it up with the Darrell Dapprich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us. We'll talk about how this discussion impacts the Baylor game, of course, Friday night, and how they're going to use all the depth that we're about to mention. But Darrell, several hidden gems or sleepers, whatever you want to label that kind of underrated player, and they're all over the team. And I'm going to start off by highlighting Raion Strader, who originally seemed to be brought in as like a depth piece, and that is not the case anymore. I mean, when you talk about physical corners that can just beat the crap out of opposing wide receivers and almost enjoy it, look forward to it, and the type of player that I think could potentially get better throughout the course of a game is Raion Strader. I can't get enough of the guy.
You know, to set this up, there may be this sentiment that you focus on your superstars, you focus on your guys that are, you know, why
Sure.
Look at depth pieces. Many coaches have talked about if you want to win championships, you have to find hidden gems. There has to be, you know, surprises, and that's why I think this is important to address. And I think Strader just jumps off the page to me with what I've heard in practices. This is a guy that could probably be playing in the secondary of a lot of other Power 4 schools and came to Auburn and is providing depth. So you expect him to have an impact that's –
Yeah.
And so you've nailed it. Unheralded, you know, basically a hidden gem, but I think that hidden gem is going to be very evident early on in the season.
Yeah, I think so too. A guy who led his former conference in pass breakups last season, does a great job of playing the ball in the air. I do think there was some of like, you know, the type of quarterback he was playing against at his previous level of competition. I don't want to take anything away from Strader. I think he's an exceptional corner, but it's going to be fun to see how they use multiple corners. And I mean, obviously more than two corners consistently, because it's kind of tricky to do. You don't see that a ton, and we'll speculate on how they're going to use all this depth in a moment. You give me one. Give me a hidden gem, a guy flying under the radar that may surprise Baylor fans when they tune in Friday night.
It has been growing and growing. James Ash, somebody who I had kind of I never use the word written off, but you just kind of forget about because you hear a lot of things about Crawford and Autry, you know, behind Blockton. But I am hearing more and more about him in the two deep and his physicality of having that NFL type body and having college football experience, albeit at the SWAC still. He's emerging, and he's a guy that, Zach, if he comes in and spells Blockton and makes some tackles, causes a fumble, has a sack, whatever, doesn't just come in and take up space, but comes in and make plays, he becomes a hidden gem of somebody in a position we were all worried about going into the season. And I'm less worried. And I kept thinking Crawford, Autry, Walker. No, this guy, he is a hidden gem because people are forgetting about him and sleeping on him. But I keep hearing people that are at practices and scrimmages, he's emerging, and I think he's going to be hard to keep off the field.
Who plays more this season? Total snaps, entire season. James Ash, Zackevius Walker.
Ash.
Who plays more total snaps this season? James Ash, Malik Autry.
Ash.
Who plays more total snaps this season? James Ash, Jay Hardy.
Ash.
Wow. James Ash or Jordan Crawford? Last one.
Wow, those are comparable, but I think that
I think they'll play different spots. But I'm just curious.
I would say just in an eyelash, Ash.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The upperclassmen, the having played college football before, might be the differentiator, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Another guy that I think might be flying under the radar a little bit is Bryce Diaz. I think, sometimes when guys sign, they're written off quickly of being, they're freshmen. It's going to be really cool when their time comes in a year or two. And I don't know if that's what's going to happen with Bryce Diaz. And it's very clear that Freeze is willing to play freshman, that DJ Durkin is willing to play freshman. I've heard nothing but incredible things about his athleticism, his poise, his versatility. I don't know if it's going to be against Baylor Friday night, but I think at some point you're going to see more and more of Bryce, and you're going to say, wow, one, like, what all can this guy do? And two, like, I can't wait to see more of him when his role grows in future seasons.
This is an example of where Hugh Freeze takes a lot of heat, and sound bites and things that he says get scrutinized. But one of the things, sometimes it's nice to give kudos and give props. One of the things that Hugh Freeze is really good at is letting his defensive coordinators dictate personnel. Yeah. It's hard to do that as a head coach. And I'm telling you, Durkin will say Diaz is going to play and play snaps, and Freeze will defer to that. He trusts Durkin that much in the defense. So I think that you're right on with that. The physicality off the charts.
Mm-hmm.
Using him situationally like they did Riddick last year, I think is going to be key in certain packages and certain downs and distance.
Yeah.
Where they just say, go get him, And I will say this too. I think he's probably a little bit more advanced in stopping the run too. Is from what I've seen as far as like a missile, hitting the hole and going to stop the run. So good one. Look, Auburn's linebackers, I think we'll see 6 or 7 by the time this is over as far as getting snaps in a game, and he definitely will be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, the linebacker depth chart that we saw earlier this week, of course, at Buck, we all know the kind of the list there, but at the Sam, they had DeMarcus Riddick and Bryce Diaz right behind them. Or they had more, but they seem to kind of be in order there. And then for your Mike linebackers, your guys that are kind of in the middle there, Robert Woodyard or Caleb Wheatland. And then your weak side linebackers, Xavier Atkins or Elijah Melendez. So I say all that to say, and I point that out because you compared him to Riddick a year ago, and they have him and Riddick kind of at that same spot. So I thought that was a good observation by you.
And I think all 6 of those guys are going to play that you mentioned. So that's good.
Do they all play Friday?
4 of the 6 play Friday.
Riddick, Woodyard, Wheatland, Atkins?
Yeah, I think that Diaz and Melendez will come on against Ball State, and they'll start to bring them on in that type of situation where they'll play Ball State, South Alabama, and kind of get their feet wet. Yes.
Yeah. All right, you've got another hidden gem that we're going to discuss. And then we kind of already touched on it a little bit, but we've got all this depth. It's very exciting. I'm not sure I want to see all of the depth on Friday.
Right.
That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Darrell, we've talked about this time and time again. I mean, most people can't name all their financial accounts or even know what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments. And if you don't have the full picture, there's a chance you're going to be leaving money on the table. Nobody wants that. So there's Monarch Money, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface, whether it's on your laptop or on your phone. Darrell, I mean, the more stuff it's just all over the place. And it's nice to finally have one central command center where you can bring all of your financial accounts together.
Very honest and transparent. The most overwhelming thing for me, even as an adult at my age, is where everything is and trying to find. Having this fear that I'm forgetting something that's out there that I'm missing or paying for. And I think this is a great app and a great opportunity, great website to do that.
Yep. Don't let any financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Of course, the NFL season's almost here. That's what they have written down, but you don't care about that. The college football season is here. And so make sure you're ready for kickoff over the next few days with FanDuel. Right now, new customers get just $5. And if your first bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. They've upped it. They're ready for the season. Darrell, Auburn, a 2.5-point favorite. Get in on the action, folks. We've been talking our smack all summer. Now here's an opportunity where you can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Darrell, you've got another hidden gem that we need to say, hey, Auburn world, this guy's going to be a factor this season.
Preston Howard, the tight end.
Love it.
I
love it.
Look, it's one of those situations where when you go into spring or you go into a fall camp and a name isn't somebody that you consider, and then all of a sudden you keep hearing that name over and over again, like we do with Ash. I'm hearing that he has emerged, Howard has emerged as the number one receiving threat at tight end. And Auburn needed one. Now I know
he needed to do that for sure.
He did, and I know that with this this personnel packages, and all the receivers that Auburn has, and how deep the receiving room, I still believe deep down in my soul that there are going to be times where Hugh Freeze is going to be absolutely tempted and have to throw to the tight end. It's just in his DNA, and to do that inside the 10, inside the hashes, up the slot. This is the guy, and I love Brandon Frazier, and he's got a lot of size, and Brandon Frazier's good shielding the defender for the ball. But Howard has emerged as this pass-catching tight end, and I think Auburn's going to utilize him more than people think.
Let me give you another tight end that, it's not going to be flashy, but it could be impactful, especially when we talk about in previous years where Auburn has kind of not been great in third and short or fourth and short. But I think Tate Johnson is going to be asked to do some pretty important things in short yardage situations. Of course, the former interior offensive lineman, they moved him to tight end this offseason. And, Hugh Freeze has been pretty clear. Like, whenever he's asked about the tight end, he mentions Tate Johnson's ability to block and being kind of a key guy there. And he's like, I don't know if we're going to send him 10 yards downfield on a route. But when they go heavy, and they put Tate Johnson on the field to block, I do think those are going to be on in pretty important downs. So that's certainly a guy to watch as he's kind of moved to a different.
Can I make position. A prediction? I'm going to make a prediction.
Okay.
When Tate Johnson comes onto the field, what do you think the opposing defensive coordinator is going to automatically assume and scream out, especially if they go heavy?
Oh, they're running.
They're running. Could you imagine slipping him off the line of scrimmage, 5 yards downfield? I'm not talking about, like I said, a long route, but let's say you're on the 6, first and goal, and Tate Johnson runs in from the sidelines, and the defensive coordinators are screaming, run, 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 and you play action. He sneaks out off the line.
It'll be euphoric.
He leaks out. It will be uncovered. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah, especially if you set it up all year long. Why not?
Yep.
Why not? That'd be incredible. Another guy that I still think is falling under the radar, and we've talked about him a lot, and it's ridiculous that he could even be a candidate for this conversation because he's been a 2-year starter. But I think too tall. I think when you look at Too Tall Miller, who started the last 2 seasons at right tackle for Auburn, not a starter now. And when you look at the depth chart of Auburn's offensive linemen, of course, he's listed as the backup left tackle right now, but he might be the backup for like 4 of the 5 positions.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have offensive linemen miss time. You just are. It's a war in the trenches every single snap. And I think there's going to be stretches where somebody's not available, and you're going to have a guy with 2 years of starting experience in the SEC come in. And it's going to be something where, I don't think the average fan will notice it because you don't watch offensive line play, and they're not going to talk about it. But that might be the difference in winning and losing a football game this year.
You've tempted me. Isn't it nice to have somebody in a backup position, in a backup role that's been a 2-year starter?
Oh, no. Do it. It's game week. Do it.
At a Power 4 school.
Give me another hidden gem, Darrell. Do it.
Ashton Daniels. So hidden gems are people that you can go to that you weren't counting on or relying on necessarily to have a big role. And they come on and they do something for you. But I digress. That backup that has started 15, 20 times like Miller has is such a luxury.
Or Ashton Daniels.
Yes. I think, Zach, it's why Hugh Freeze at his press conferences is completely different talking about this team and the confidence thereof and the smirk and the smiles he has on his face, because he knows that from a depth standpoint, he's got guys that any other year would probably start at Auburn.
That's true. I mean, we've seen it. We've literally seen it with Tutal. I mean, they've recruited over him.
And isn't that what we've always heard for years and years, is that, Auburn can recruit to the level of starters with some of these other schools, but where the difference is depth. And it's the thing that's got me, and that's why we're doing this show, because it's the most important directional arrow for me that shows that they're on an upward trajectory. And accuse me of booging all you want, whatever, is the depth and talking about hidden gems.
Yeah.
Hidden gems that could probably start at other schools.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let's each drop one more. You've got a defensive guy.
Yes.
You go next.
Wheatland. I've been riding his Caleb Wheatland from the moment he signed, and I'm a little bit concerned that we're not hearing enough, but give credit to Robert Woodyard for that. Is that the assumption
he also isn't being asked about linebackers.
Right. And I think the expectation was Wheatland gets brought in to start at that linebacker position, and it hasn't been handed to him. Woodyard has been mentioned just as much, but I think at the end of the day, as much football as Wheatland has played and how he's a senior, I think he's going to have a big role in communication on the field, direction, that type of thing. I think that he's right now a hidden gem that's going to come to fruition later on.
All right. My last one, and then we'll kind of have discussions on what this means for Friday. We're recording this 3 days away. So I'm gonna bring up Perry Thompson.
Yeah.
I think Perry Thompson has been under discussed, admittedly so, on my end. And I think he finds a way to make a few plays this season that say, yeah, that's the guy we thought he was during his recruitment. We've heard he's had a great fall camp. There's just so many guys on the field and in that position where it's going to be interesting and it's going to be a battle. But I still think Perry Thompson, to some extent, is being slept on right now.
He could be the perfect example of a player on the offensive side of the ball that's all about quality and not so much quantity.
Sure.
Meaning he comes in and gives you, bam, a big play, right? Let's just say he gets 5 to 10 snaps a game. I don't want to speculate. I don't know, because I've heard Turner and him keep going back and forth in competition as far as where they are in the depth chart. I think Turner was listed ahead of him on the depth chart.
Well, he was behind Horatio.
That's right.
The other receiver. Yeah.
Right. And Turner was listed behind Coleman, which was interesting. So let's just say he gets 5 snaps. Well, what if he gets 2 or 3 big plays, a long first down, a touchdown, whatever? Then yes, he has that potential and has to have that kind of impact. And again, it'll be all about quality, not necessarily quantity.
Mm-hmm. So what do all these guys mean? And how quickly do we need to see this depth come to fruition? That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items for the most trusted brands in the business. I mean, you run a business, Darrell. I mean, how important is it to have options and for it to be prompt and on time?
Maintenance is a big thing in a manufacturing environment. And so things go down, things break, all the things you're listing, plumbing, HVAC, electrical. It's nice to go to SupplyHouse. We have people that are qualified to fix that stuff on site, but you still need to go get the supplies.
Yep. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit SupplyHouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for SH for Supply House, SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. So all this depth is exciting. It's very exciting. And Kyle and I talked a lot about how there's a million supposed starters, specifically on the defensive side of the ball and at wide receiver. I'm not sure I want to see all of these guys play a ton of snaps against Baylor. It's so important. There's so much on the line. I don't know if that's the right time to experiment with rotations. I'm just going to be honest with you. I say you put your best guys out there. You might keep the rotation a little bit more limited than normal, and then use the next 2 weeks to kind of make sure that rotation is honed in. You'll have a little bit of tape to work on as well. You can do the whole self-evaluation thing, both from a coaching standpoint and from a player standpoint. I'm not predicting this to happen because I think all these guys are going to play a ton Friday, and I think it's going to be a fairly even rotation at certain spots. But I'm saying put the proven guys out there that we've seen it, and then let's work on the rotation over the next 2 weeks. So then that's ready when we go to Norman for the fourth game of the season.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Okay. I kind of expect you to disagree there.
No,
okay.
I totally agree. I think in games like this, you ride your star.
What you know.
What you do best and who does it best. Now, there's an inherent need to have to go too deep just because it's football. And I will say this, the whole weather dynamic has changed a little bit too, where it was supposed to be oppressive heat. They were doing a blackout. It's supposed to be a little cooler Friday night. So that heat factor where you may have had to go to 3 deeps isn't there as much. You ride, you dance with who brung you when you go to the biggest dance of the year. And I think you go with your superstars, you lean on them. If you have to go to 2 deeps, which you will, because it's like I said, it's football and for rest and that kind of thing and to keep people fresh. But after that, the analogy is when people used to go crazy when Bruce Pearl played 10 players a couple of years, and you're like, there's 7 or 8 that are decidedly better. Right. Why not just ride with them? So in this scenario, that's why you're not going to see 3 quarterbacks. That's why you may not see 3 running backs, or you may see 3 running backs, but you may not see 4. The offensive line may not get any substitutions unless they absolutely have to. The secondary may be limited as to who comes in. All those things, I think, matter. Now, all bets are off if the great thing happens and Auburn gets a comfortable lead.
Yeah, we're talking about relevant competitive snaps here. Right.
Exactly. So, no, I agree, and I think that this is a situation where, no, you just ride. You put a saddle on your starters and you go. Yeah.
Like, of course, I believe in, I'm just going to list a few freshmen arbitrarily, like Sam Turner, Eric Winters, Bryce Diaz. Like, I believe in all of those guys. I don't know if I want them feeling it this Friday. I just don't. I mean, play them, give them some snaps. But when it's, let's assume it's close and it's, 10 minutes left to go in the game and it's a 4-point game in the fourth quarter. It's like, no, like let's don't worry about the depth at that point.
I agree. 100%. 100%.
And I think seeing the depth chart earlier in the week with all these oars and like 3 technical starters at all these positions, and I'm like, I don't know. There's some positions where you got to do it. Like, you've got to play that many defensive linemen. Like, I get that. But I don't think you have to play that many DBs. I don't think you have to play that many linebackers, especially because I think we're going to be a nickel a ton. You mentioned offensive linemen for sure. That's just where I'm at. That's just where, like, philosophically I believe. But if that's truly the strength of this team, and that's what this coaching staff has said before, I don't think we see what you and I are talking about. I think we see a lot of guys play pretty close to even snaps, but that'll be a fun thing to talk about over the course of this weekend for sure.
And let's not pay attention too much to the oars on the defensive side. Durkin loves to do that. He's always done that. it doesn't mean every one of those people will play.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Darrell Dapprich, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
You can follow me on X, DAP6410, Wednesdays and Fridays, Locked on Auburn. And then obviously, here it comes. I might be jumping on with you some Saturday. We'll definitely do the Friday reaction show after the game. I'll be out of town, but we'll have access to do some things with you as well, some additional shows.
Yeah, programming note. I mean, the schedule is going to be the same as last year most weeks, but with it being a Friday night game, it's a little different. So we will go live. It'll probably just be me Friday night. We'll see if anybody else is free to join me, but it'll probably just be me Friday night going live right after. Saturday morning, we will drop a show that's me and Darrell, and then we will drop something Sunday morning that might be me and Darrell. It might be me and someone else, but we'll drop something both mornings this weekend. Once the season gets going and we're playing on a normal Saturday, the schedule will be I'll go live right after, and then the Sunday morning drop will be me and Darrell, and that'll include more of the press conference and kind of another angle and, you know, Darrell's thoughts on everything as well. So that's what it looks like, similar to what we did last year. This weekend will be a little bit more content just because it's a Friday night game instead of a Saturday game. So very, very fun stuff. Be sure you're subscribed, whether you're watching on YouTube or tuning in on your favorite podcasting app. Click that subscribe button. It helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.